Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and we've got Jason Jeffries with us again. We're going to be looking at new star charts, different prophecies and connections that Jason has put together. Now, he's been on the Leak Project a few times before, and we've had many requests to have him as a regular. So the information he's going to be presenting to the table is pretty awesome, and I really appreciate you spending time with us here, Jason. How the heck you doing?
I'm doing good as usual. Long day at work today. It's kind of hot, so.
Yeah, you're in construction, huh?
Yeah, I was playing a masonry today. I was playing masonry, so pretending I was a bricklayer and stuff like that. It's fun. I got to do it. It's basically, I do a little bit of this and that, so
cool.
It's never the same thing, so I like that.
Are you building a bunker?
Yeah, underground.
Nice.
No, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Have you seen that movie Cloverfield Lane? 10 Cloverfield Lane just came out on rent. You can rent it now through Amazon and stuff.
No, I'll check it out later then.
Yeah, this guy builds this bunker that's pretty intense, and then the apocalypse happens. Unfortunately, he's under there with his supplies. So,
Awesome.
Talk about Noah in the 21st century. But what do you bring to the table for us, Jason? What do we got here?
That's actually interesting because like a lot of the three major religions say that like Elijah and Noah or Moses, whatever, would be coming back, and it says it in the Revelation and all that. There you go. But this program is Worldwide Telescope. Sorry, I got off. I can't remember what we were talking about, but Worldwide Telescope, and it's got pretty much everything, every program, like every filter, filter upon filter upon filter, like layer upon layer. You can just look at like every survey. You can look at every. You can go through levels and levels and levels and levels of information. And what was convenient about this is it actually has all the stuff we went over previously, but it has an up-to-date one in the infrared spectrum called WISE. So if you go to the WISE infrared, that's what we're looking at now, and you can you can go right below the ecliptic and see, as we were looking, and you can see a big red object. And this thing, it follows the path. It literally goes through the path. And they named it it's the curious thing about this is I got some links for it, but it literally follows through the path, you know what I mean? Say the Earth's going around the sun, so as these things are going around and scanning, there's going to be different points which it scans. So the overlays, like if I went to a different filter and went to the IRS, it would show us, the old angles that, at 1982 or whatever. So we'd go right to below the ecliptic and look at that kind of information, So you can correlate all these other maps and information that we did through there. So we go back to that. So you could look right now at this thing in WISE spectrum, and you could just go to the constellations if you wanted. Would be the easiest way. And then you click through, and how to find it, the easiest way I found was to bring up right here and go down, and there it is. It's right below the ecliptic coming up, and it's basically way closer than anything else. They couldn't explain that away. You could literally see, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and how many in between in the frames, like from it moving. It was moving so fast during the scan because it does multiple scans over the sky. And look, that correlates with the data. This is around 2010, and it's getting ready to rise above the ecliptic. So people wouldn't be able to see it as well, but they'd see it better than they were, everything like that. Then what you go through, and what I did was I put together I pulled together some information from it, and that's right here. This, and it's called an index catalog of the object, and you can go right to the coordinate. Basically, there's a key at the top. It's this one, all right? So this says an unknown lost object in the Pisces, and tells you the right ascension and declination where we were just at. And it says no objects exist at that recorded coordinates, all right? And then they named it IC, which is just index code, and there it is. And that equals NGC 7832, and it equals this one. So other people kept on reporting this thing because it was an unknown object on them. And basically every time they reported it, or discovered it, nothing was said about it. It was kind of just swept under the rug. So 3 people actually got kind of credited for finding this thing, and they named it. So there's the 3 people and the different times they found it. You can read it all there. But it says it's pretty bright, pretty small, and they named it a galaxy. Okay, they called it a galaxy. But you can clearly look at that, and anybody that's an expert, you can zoom in actually and see that it's not a galaxy. You can see that I mean, it's not, it's an infrared. So the funny thing is, like, when you zoom in on that program, say if I went there, I could just type in and probably find something. Like, you could just look, zoom off into space. Let's go. Let me take on the right layer. But the idea is you can zoom, 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 and keep zooming, and then they'll keep bringing up higher resolutions, and you can go through different imagery to see the most clear, you know, ones basically. And you can actually zoom in on specific galaxies, like, and you'll see the spiral of it, you'll see the definition of it, and you can keep on going and going and going and going. You can't find this unless it's an infrared spectrum. So, you know, there's only basically been 2 satellite scans of that. So I went and brought up, because we had a lot of people in the shows saying stuff about this, criticizing it, saying this is folks. So I brought up the Science Digest that actually told us, you know, this. You know what I mean? So I figured they'd really like this. Mysterious Planet X, it says something must be out there, and it shows us that it's probably a brown dwarf, and they sent Pioneers 10 and 11, and they went, because Neptune and Uranus their orbits were perturbed. They knew they were pulled off. Pluto's too small. They know because of the mass of the moon and how small the moon is, that they can guess that Pluto is not having effect on these things. Pluto shouldn't even be there at all. It just got tugged along and sat there. It wasn't originally there. And then they give you, tells you, basically the 2 pioneers are leaving. It's triangulation. They wanted to get 2 scans from the same direction where they knew it was headed from, where this perturbation was from. And yeah, tells you there was a tug. It was about 50 billion miles away. That's where we were based the last things in that math from. I was trying to explain this to people, but we didn't show them it, so you got to just kind of show them. That was from the IRAS satellite, infrared astronomy satellite. These theories have their critics and this and that, and then they give you a diagram showing you how they did it. This was the brown dwarf, they said, and this is, you know, where they sent the things out. And you got to remember, these aren't always in relation to where north, south, east, west, I guess if you could say, if it was in the space sense as we rotate around the sun, or north, south, east, west of the sun. You know, the pictures aren't exact in that sense, because you can flip things and look at them from different just perspectives from space. You know, it's a globe, and it's easy to do. You know what I mean? You could look at it top, bottom, you know, whatever. So they just showed you right there how they were doing it, and how they were, you know, this was the star and this was the planet, you know. So there was the sun they thought this thing was coming from, and this was the planet that was rotating between the two. Okay, they told us about it. They were very open, and then they said, when this thing gets here, you know, we'll have all the information. And then we had the IRS satellite scans. We seen they blocked them out. We seen they, you know, fudged the data, lied about it. We had to go through NASA's, you know, backdoor and actually type in coordinates, you know, to their actual site. You couldn't scan it and survey the sky and look for a blacked out spot like I showed you. But I got a lot of cool stuff on here, and it just shows you that was the article. And I gotta have some notes here, and yeah, it explains what WISE is. It's a Wide Infrared Survey Explorer. That's the new information we just found. So it's the same thing as the IRAS, but it was done in 2009, and they actually just reactivated it in 2013 and got some recent stuff back this May. And there's a lot of asteroids and like over 200 and things in question that they found, and they're having really controversial data over, like debates and arguments over. So, and yeah, so it's that satellite actually discovered 33,500 new asteroids and comets just alone with that spectrum of light, because you're not seeing just inside the very, very narrow spectrum of human sight, you know. So I had some cool things to touch on there with that, because it all went back to the Bible, where we were talking about the Revelation Code and how it was dealt a lot and heavily with astrology and numbers and things like that. So I had this thing. I'm sure you guys all seen things weird like that, where they talked about the mark of the beast, but I wanted to show people these cool programs they could actually use, make it real easy. Okay, so you can take it, go right to Google Translator, type in anything you want. So what I have some information to go with these in theory, and I'll show you that in a second. But you can check out a couple names, and these are the same name, just 3 different ways. And we go in, we enter the text, paste it, and then you got to change it to Hebrew to show you how the Hebrew, remember how I told you it was called a geometria, like it was a math equation. The numbers had the letters had number equivalents and so on. So the whole Bible was written out in literally like a codex form, and only like 12 times did they specifically write numbers as numbers. So we go ahead and look at this, and then you can type it into numberman.net. It's the Hebrew geometry calculator, and it's really like makes you so you don't have to learn languages, basically. So we can clear this all off. Give it a second there. Paste that one in there, the Hebrew translation there, and we just hit enter. And we see that the Hebrew value is 666. It shows you the letters, their numbers, and their equivalents to the numbers. And that was 666 with one name. Okay, then we can write his name out another way. Do it the same way. Comes up same way. I could keep going through all these. I mean, I'll show you if you want. Just makes it easy. You delete these. Put it in there, but I wanted to show you why this name, because it's very significant when you read the code in there and you realize what the code they're actually talking about, to kind of give you another marker in the timeline, or the prediction we could be looking for, you know. And this stuff is starting to get really creepy. But 666, it pops out again. You could rewrite his name the other way, and this is one of them's is like surname and one of them's is like maiden name or whatever you'd want to call it, but they all do the same thing. I don't have to do it again to show you that, but it's there. You can look these up. But I got that from, it says, in the beast, from Revelation 13:2, it says, and the beast on which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and his great authority. Now if you look, I have the pictures here. Let me pull them up. They should pull up in recent. Yep, I think that's this one. And the other one. So I have two of them. I have his family crest, and basically just to zoom in on it, and that's it. And then his, which is really significant. That's the dragon, which is, let me show you here. Actually, a representation of one of the bloodlines in the family. Oh, did I keep clicking the same one? I got a lot of stuff opened up, and that's probably why. But this actually should, yeah, that's the one I wanted. So you got highlighted there. But it shows you that it has the face of a lion, but the body of a leopard has bear claws. If you look at just the anatomy features of these animals, you'll see that a lion isn't that skinny, a leopard is. The face of the lion is more square-shaped like this, instead of leopard shaped, which is straight and kind of slightly, you know, kind of triangle shaped. And the claws on a lion barely hang out, but bears protrude like this. Okay, and there's the dragon right in the family crest. Okay. So, I mean, it tells you about it, tells you his name, the number, this, that. There's actually, goes way, way further into it and talks about, I have it up here, I believe. But I deciphered this part as we had the, let me see here. Yeah, it talked about the Pleiades and the Orion back then. I thought that was very curious. They actually talked about the names of these astrological things in the Bible to show that they were talking about them, and show that they were talking about waters pouring forth on the land, and the Lord, all caps, like I was saying. In Hebrew, this www, the World Wide Web, translates 666. The monster logo, the 3 dashes on it, are 666 in Hebrew. The Scarlet.
Actually, you know what I noticed the other day too? I just want to throw this out there. The Time Warner Cable logo, if you actually look at it, it's the eyeball, and the eyeball is 3 6s.
Yeah, I never looked at it like that, but yeah. I could see the eyeball. Like CBS and them, they're really crazy. I actually have a DVR on my TV from the Weather Channel telling us 2 days ago not to take pictures of the sun, to take pictures of the sun 20 minutes before, 20 minutes after, only on overcast days. If there's not a cloud in the sky, you might as well put your camera away. That's what they were telling us. I swear, they were giving us photo advice because of lens anomalies. And I recorded it as soon as I seen it, because it was just all too perfect. It was just too perfect, you know, programming. But the Scarlet Whore of Babylon, this is a very important part that it just clicked. All of a sudden, it just makes sense, okay? Like, you ever had something just totally make sense as you're starting to read and decipher this, and trying to look at it from just not the way it says, you know what I mean?
Right.
Kind of more straightforward, but not with, you got to remember their words were in parables. It even says that they spoke in parables. They didn't have the terms at the time. They didn't have a term for planet, you know? So I believe this is where this starts. I want you to just think of the Statue of Liberty in America, just for a second, and keep that in mind. Now, come, I will show you the punishment of the great prostitute, who sits by many waters, with her kings of the earth committed to adultery, and the inhabitants of the earth were intoxicated with the wine of her adulteries. Then the angel carried me away into the spirit of the wilderness. There I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, that she was covered with blasphemous names, and had 7 heads and 10 horns. 10 horns. The woman was dressed in purple and scarlet. They changed that. It's actually, it says something else, and this is a new translation, but it actually has changed the color there. That's funny. I never noticed that. And was glittering with gold, precious stones, and pearls. It was more of a violet or purple. I don't know. I think it was more of a violet or blue, maybe an indigo. I can't remember. But it didn't say purple. Stones and pearls. She had a golden cup in her hand, filled with the abominable things that filth her adulteries. The name written on her forehead was a mystery. It was in Hebrew. They translate it Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and the abominations of the earth. I saw the woman was drunk with the blood of God's holy people and the blood of those who bore testimony to Jesus. And when I saw her, I was greatly astonished. Then the angel said to me, "Why are you astonished? I will explain to you the mystery of the woman and the beast she rides, when she has the 7 heads and the 10 horns. The beast which you saw once was, now is not, and yet will come up from the abyss." That's Satan, Lucifer, the devil, that's whatever you want to take it. But they repeat that over and over. "And go to its destruction. The inhabitants of the earth whose names have not been written in the book of life from the creation of the world will be astonished when they see the beast, because it once was, now is not, and yet will come." So basically mocks Christ and dies and is resurrected. "This calls for mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 hills on which the woman sits. There are also 7 kings." I was thinking maybe the 7 continents. 5 have fallen. 1 is, and the other has not yet come. So that that's what I thought maybe pointed to the prince, something like that, or somebody getting ready to take power or assume power. "But when he does come, he must remain for only a little while. The beast who once was and now is not is an 8th king." Oh, well, there you go. That's king. Yeah, prince. He's the 8th prince. So there you go. Makes sense. That completely solidified it, and I didn't realize it now. But he's the 8th. And that's what they're talking about. When the queen dies, he'll become and assume power of this nation. He belongs to the 7 and is going to his destruction. So the 7 that they're talking about is the 7 heads or the 7 continents. So this is talking about a new world order. I'm guaranteeing it. This is exactly what it's talking about, or predicting, all those years ago. "The beast who once was, is now not, and is an 8th king. He belongs to the 7, is going to his destruction. The 10 horns you saw are the 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but who, for 1 hour, will receive authority as kings along with the beast." Now, in God time, you got to kind of like multiply. So like a day may be like a week or a month or a year, or, a year to them maybe, a decade to us, or a century to us. They even say that and break it down in the math, but I can't recall it. So you guys can look into that further. "They have one purpose and will give their power and authority to the beast. They will wage war against the Lamb. But the Lamb will triumph over them, because he is Lord of lords, King of kings, and with him his will will be chosen and his faithful followers. Then the angel said unto me, The waters you saw where the prostitute sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and languages. The beasts with the 10 horns you saw will hate the prostitute. They will bring her to ruin and leave her naked. They will eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to accomplish his purpose by agreeing to hand over the beast to the royal authority until God's words are fulfilled. The woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth." I mean, that's pretty blatant in our time. Now it comes into the next part. And if that doesn't do it for you, the next part really will. So, after I saw another angel coming down from heaven, he had great authority, and the earth was illuminated by his splendor. And his mighty voice he shouted, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling for demons, and a haunt for every impure spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird, a haunt for every unclean and detestable animal. For all the nations have drunk the maddening wine of her adulteries. The kings of the earth committed adultery with her, and the merchants of the earth grew rich from her excessive luxuries." Then I heard another voice from the heavens say, "Come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sins, so that you will not receive any of her plagues. For her sins are piled to heaven, and God has remembered her crimes. Give back to her as she has given. Pay her back double for what she has done. Pour her double portion from her own cup. Give her as much torment and grief as the glory and luxury she gave herself. In her heart she boasts, I sit enthroned as queen, but I am not a widow, I will never mourn. Therefore in one day her plagues will overtake her, death, mourning, and famine. She will be consumed by fire." And this is think about this, if America was to fall. When the kings of the earth who committed adultery with her shared her luxury and see the smoke of her burning, they will weep and mourn over her. Terrified at her torment, they will stand far off and cry, woe, woe to you, great city, you mighty city of Babylon, in 1 hour your doom has come. The merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her because no one buys their cargoes anymore. So Mexico, China, they don't have somebody to buy their stuff anymore. Things like that, you know.
So you're looking at it
Places,
as like a global economy here.
yeah, that's exactly what it was saying. A new world order. The people they were dealing with each other, doing the sins behind the seven nations, the seven lands, all these the major continents, the people that were in control of them, the 10 kings. They were all in control of the economy. They were dealing with each other. They were outsourcing the goods, you know, to the other places and the jobs and everything because of the labor being cheap. And they were the ones profiting off of America's, you know, consume, consume, consume. And since she's burning, they're freaking out. Global economic collapse. Cargoes of gold, silver, precious stones and pearls, fine linen, purple silk and scarlet cloth, every sort of citron wood and articles of every kind of ivory, costly wood, bronze, iron, marble, cargoes of cinnamon, spice, incense, myrrh, frankincense, wine, olive oil, fine flour and wheat, cattle and sheep, horses and carriages. Human beings sold as slaves. They will say, the fruit you longed for is gone from you. All your luxury and splendor has vanished, never to be recovered. The merchants who sold these things and gained their wealth from her will stand off, terrified at her torment. They will weep and mourn. It just says the captains will see her burning, and they're all mad about it, you know. And then it just shows. I mean, no worker of any trade, you know. It shows you like the death of America, basically, is what it's talking about. The fall, the global economic collapse because of the new Babylon, the new Egypt. There was, I mean, it's really straightforward when it talks about that. Okay, so let me get back to my notes so I can not lose subject to where I was. Okay, then I wanted people, because of this, I want people to take in what I seen. We were all watching this sunspot, and this sunspot tilted, I can't remember, about 40 degrees. It was, you can see it's right there, but it was up in the top right of the globe. And then all of a sudden, a couple days later, it was at the bottom right, okay? Tilted. It looked like, I mean, it's completely impossible. It looked like our sun was being magnetically pulled and shifted, like the magnetic poles on the sun were shifting, you know. Really curious, but looked like a heart. And look at all these, I want people to look at these paintings and just tell me what they think, you know. I think they're being really cryptic about it. You can see there's always a halo around this cross. He's always pointing at his chest or at the center. There's always a flaming cross or something like that. There's always an aura around his head, like a halo like we're seeing. I mean, it's straightforward. There's only one that doesn't have it like that, and it's Mary Magdalene, and she's holding a red painted egg. I swear, that's what they're talking about. The son of our Creator, you know, the son of our, you know, the son of, he's the sun. Look at the heart of the sun for the sign, you know. Look at the halo coming up behind the heart of the sun, you know, things like that. The halo around the sun, the center of the sun, the heart, you know. And if you, I mean, it was literally a huge sign. I mean, when you're always talking about these paintings, because anything with a halo was kind of supposed to be like enlightenment or divine, or maybe a connection like telepathically with other people type thing. Like that's what they were portraying. They were portraying, you know, the essence of how, you know. But that's the sun. When you think about the bottom of that very old Illuminati pyramid they found that had pre-Sanskrit writing, the first writing on the bottom of it, and it says, from the son of our Creator he comes, and things like that. And you look at that, don't think of sun like here you go son, or my daughter. Think of sun up in the sky, things like that, you know. It's like a cryptograph, you know. It's huge, and it's really driving me crazy. But when you look at, I wanted people to see the scarlet whore too. This is a Google image of it, I believe. The whore of Babylon. Okay. But there you go, the whore of Babylon. That was their rendition of it. Red, white, and blue, right? You know, the scarlet, the colors, that's what they were saying. They were literally talking about flags. And they talked about Islam like that in the Bible. I mean, it literally says after, you know, halfway through the tribulation, which we could say starts sometime after September 23rd, if we're going by my chart, which goes, you know, by the whole shebang we were looking at, you know, with the whole thing that started this. And we could say about 3.5 years after, maybe December of next year, that would be like the halfway point, and that's when, like, you better, like, basically says convert to Islam or get murdered because the false prophet rise. They said he would build a temple mount on their temple mount, like the sacred holy ground of the Hebrews and the Christians. And what a lot of people don't look at is when they go there, you go on Google Maps, you can go to the Kaaba, you can go to the Muslim and Islamic place, their holy place, and see that it's further south, just kind of like they were talking in the Sumerian tablets. It literally shows you. And then you go further north, and then you got the Christian and Hebrew, which they were only separated by Jesus. The Hebrews didn't think Jesus was the Messiah or whatever, things like that. And in my theory is why they removed the book of Enoch, because it literally tells you that Jesus is the Messiah. And they just have the argument there. So that's no big deal. They believe the same thing. The Quran's actually the same book and everything, but there's little twists and turns there to it, and that's it. It's all the Abrahamic religions. They're all believing the same thing, but they argue over this, that, and the other. But they know that they came to this Temple Mount, which was a foundation in the ground, which is true. There's just a foundation there, and they built their mosque on it, and that's supposed to be the place for New Jerusalem or whatever. But if you realize that it's like 100 miles south is their holy spot, and then they go 100 miles north and literally put a holy spot in the other people's spot, and it predicted it in the Bible, saying, this would be the rise of the false prophet. They believe what we believe, but he's going to be, the false prophet, the false religion, the great falling away. People just won't believe in God anymore. They got technology and science, and they'll forget that they're not realizing that these same concepts we're talking about with New Age religion is present in the Bible. You just got to realize, that's what they're saying. And you can't read Hebrew, so you can't realize the translation when they added Greek words, and they added words in the 1600s that were just similar to the words that they thought were at the time. So if you're not really reading the real thing, you're not reading the real thing, and that's just it. You won't see the words that they use, the vocabulary, the specificness, the math equations they have there. I mean, they give you a specific order of events, and every one of it's broken down to the solar eclipse or to the lunar eclipses, including the one that NASA said wasn't supposed to happen but happened last time, just like not long ago. And I mean, the whole thing, it gets pretty intense. Like, I further broke down like what I was telling you, and I think between September 23rd, 2017, and I think it was on the planets today, October 5th would be the best candidate because the moon's directly behind the Earth. But that would be if this object would pass in front of us in the sun, that's when we'd get the solar eclipse like it talks about in the Bible. And that would be the key marking point, like you'd have between the 23rd and the 5th. We were the one people were saying the 14th, the 20th, this and that, because the Saturn was going around and Mercury was wrapping around it, like Michael and Satan battling in the sky. But that's just happening later. That's furthering the astronomical chart. So that's not saying that that's wrong, but they were giving you a marker for the start of when this thing would be visible as it comes out. Like you have a solar eclipse, and you'll be able to see it with your naked eye as it gets to the perihelion. Like you get closest to the sun, comes in front of it, reveals itself. Basically, you can't hide it. You know what I mean? One of the objects, the planets, comes in between us and our sun, and it reveals their sun, like I showed you. And that. So this object comes in between us and our sun, while the moon's at the backside of us, and causes what is described in there as the revelation. The sixth seal or whatever. I can't remember or recall exactly, but then they discuss wormwood falling. They discuss one hitting the ocean, one hitting the land. It literally, if we go on further into Revelations, it talks about helicopters and tanks. Literally, it talks about helicopters.
Are you
and tanks.
referring to the part where it has the giant locusts with iron breastplates that go around stinging people but don't kill them?
Yep. They're tormenting us with like chemtrails, a mustard gas for 5 months. That's what it says, basically. And then it even says they have the power to hold back the rains. They have the power to make it rain, hold back rains, basically add the plagues of the earth as they please. But they said they only get a short 7-year reign. So, hey, it looks like, after 2014, if this stuff's, no, not 2014, what, 2024? If this stuff's right, then you make it that, you're pretty good. if it's right, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it couldn't be right all the way up to that much and then not be right. So we'll see when the time comes. I mean, this is the only time astronomically it could be possible. So you can't ever have people keep on repeating the same thing over and over and over again, because it's not, you know what I mean? This is a timeline it's coming down to. And if it doesn't hit it, everybody can just stop about it. The 3 Abrahamic religions were completely wrong. Okay? Everybody was wrong. Go back to the drawing board. Okay? including a lot of these scientists. Okay, that's all I was saying. Everything's correlating, and it's almost yeah. If I wouldn't have looked at it from a non-religious standpoint, I would have never understood it. So I could say that that was a blessing in one sense.
And
So
also, didn't you send a bunch of
yeah, I got
articles
you.
and images about how there's a lot of issues going on with the economy and people that are on food stamps and government assistance are having issues in a lot of places? So that
Yes,
might be.
there's 17 states that have gone 14 or 13 days without food stamps. Deutsche Bank from Germany, their ATM cards weren't working. Cricket Wireless went down the same day, which uses AT&T towers. They had to send out things to reboot your phones and stuff. They completely blacked this out of the media and conveniently had the worst mass shooting ever when the card systems are failing, glitching worldwide. I mean, the whole, it basically showed that this automated system isn't working for so long, then where's our government? You know what I mean? That shows us that the government that they showed us is just basically a tent pole structure, and there's something new going on. They're already in full act of the agenda. If it's almost like I could show you videos, basically, and they pick the convenientest places, to let these people where their people are completely welfare dependent. Where the president basically got them welfare dependent, because of how he did it, how they introduced the laws, and the way they just presented it perfectly. All right, just like with this false flag attempt that they see now. You see, to me, they started with guns. All right, or maybe they started with Islam. I can't remember, but they started with Islam. They started with guns. Then they started with gays. And everybody on Facebook's either wearing a French flag on your face, talking about gun control, or you're got a rainbow on your face. You know what I mean? You're all supporting one thing. Okay. Well, guy that's a security guard walks in, buys a gun legally, and goes and shoots people, or so we're told, because they're gay, because the Quran tells people that, to take homosexuals, throw them off the highest point in town and stone them. Their holy book tells them that. That's why they have extremists that do stuff like that. But then they have this whole debate. So the liberals don't know what to say. They don't know, hey, what do we say? We're for the gays, we're for gun control, but we want to keep our guns. We're for, religious people, like we're going to celebrate Muhammad Ali and this and that, but now we hate Muslims, and we're scared of gay people going to our bathroom, but now we love gay people because they're shot. And do you see what's going on? It's simple to me. They're trying to make everybody divide and conquer. And divert your attention from the real problem, and that's, look up, look up at the sky. I mean, there's geoengineering everywhere. Nobody asked you permission to that. It's affecting the plants, the food you eat, the water, everything. Somebody should be mad about this. If it was 30 or 40 years ago, we probably already had a revolution, in my opinion. But, we're all just dumbed down and comfortable. We're just lazy. And we just accept it. That's basically how, as a group, it just works. I mean, the founding fathers of our country got on a boat and left over there supposedly because they were sick of it. Literally went on a boat and just some guy's word said, hey, if you go that way far enough, you'll have land. These guys can't bother you.
Do you believe that though?
No, but
I mean, the story
no.
sounds great, but if you really look at the founding
infiltrate.
fathers of this country and all the bloodshed that was laid on this soil, I mean, they didn't like anybody either. I mean, not just
No.
the Native Americans, but the people that went with them. There's a lot of alternative history that we're not told about, and I don't know which is true, so I can't say one is more accurate than the other, but there's a lot of people and information out there that points to our founding fathers not being anywhere close to what a lot of people try and project them as.
Exactly. That I completely agree with. That's why they teach Edison and not Tesla, and Einstein, not Tesla. That's why people know this. He invented the regular electrical current basically, and Tesla had the alternating current, which would blew it out of the water. It's like you sticking a wire in a light bulb trying to power your house, or in a potato trying to power your house, and then actually having solar paneling and stuff like that. Like the concepts blew it out of the water. They can't even. I mean, it showed that energy could be free, pretty much routed around the earth and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, the founding fathers, what George Washington was the fifth president, they said, or something like that, eighth or something. I can't remember, but I've heard that he wasn't even the first president. They had secret presidents before him, and before it came above ground. You know what I mean? And that was kind of the idea behind the Illuminati. This, that, and the other was they basically set up their own nation and kind of did things the way they wanted to, secretly behind the scenes, using the propaganda of freedom and stuff like that to get people to tug at their heartstrings, So there you go. We got some screenshots. That's something else I wanted to pull up. took
You know, I mean,
these.
even the name George Washington wasn't the king of England at the time, King George.
Yeah, it is just all set up. They were all just dudes from England that, you know, that they're like, I'm not in charge. Somebody else is in charge. Like, I'm mad. It just seemed like they didn't want to be taxed by those people, or if that was even really the thing. But the Revolutionary War seemed pretty real. Like there was a sense like there had to be somebody went rogue, or maybe they just weren't good at the concept, and people actually believed this was a free country, a real free thing, and they started supporting and acting on its behalf. And then they're like, whoa, 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 we were just kidding, dude. Kill that guy. You know what I mean? Or they had to have a, you know, like a war, or go over and keep us in check and instill the taxes like they did a couple years later. We had a war. The Revolutionary War was because they wanted to tax us from England. We were like, no, we're not going to do that. And then we taxed our own people just a little bit later. You know, it's all hypocrisy.
So what's
But
this picture we're looking at here?
this is Selawik, Alaska. And I
Okay.
watched a couple videos where people were just pulling up this webcam. And these webcams, I'll show you the site. And they're all over the place. I mean, they're really, it's pretty phenomenal, actually. So this one, what's interesting about Selawik right now and things that are up here is that they get 24 hours of sunlight right now. So as the sun sets, it doesn't really set. Well, what I did was just click. You can't look at archives. I haven't found out a way to pull up any archived images. It just gives you like about the past 6 hours. So I had to wake up early and look at it to see the sun in a good position. But what I found was this. The sun just sat over here. So this is facing west or southwest. I have the image here. I believe that's southwest. Yeah, southwest. So this is facing in there in the set because there was no way I could do it but take literally screenshots of each one. So this thing comes from facing southwest. It goes from west to east. Okay. So as far as I know, where Earth turns, you know, it makes things rise east and west. So that's odd. Yeah, so we could look into it a little bit further. But you can just keep pulling up the image. I kept on screenshotting them. Sorry.
And we've got Bob Barker with us on the other line.
Bob Barker. All right, that was one I circled from one of the cams. I've seen that thing, and that's what caught my eye on one of them. Okay, I sent that to you.
Make that a bigger screen, if you would, please. There you go.
And then I think we can cycle through from here.
No.
Then it moves. See, that's moving west east. And this shows you that that was a southwest facing camera right here. So this thing went from here to there. There's some photos that people sent me, some other stuff. I'm getting
Hey,
ready.
look, there's an apartment complex.
I know. Did you see the light on that apartment? There's the flag.
It's even got bricks. That looks like red brick.
Red bricks.
Kind of like the Red Kachina.
No, look, we got cool photos.
Did you read that comment that somebody posted on the channel
Yeah.
where they said that the red dragon that you were showing was actually just Saturn overlaid twice or Jupiter overlaid twice?
That's pretty funny. That's cool.
They said for somebody that does so much research, you know, you would know that, you would think.
Yeah, I don't look into NASA's excuses. I like literally look at the maps and star charts and see where things could have been. So, you know what I mean? Odds are that Saturn was on the opposite side of the world at that point.
I was
Yeah,
hoping you would have read that
doesn't
comment.
even. Yeah, that doesn't even make sense to me. That totally does. Because the ecliptic, it would be on the ecliptic. Okay, that's what the ecliptic is. That is where the planets go. Okay, so how do they not understand that? This thing is below the ecliptic. All right, this is the time lapse of it. And then look how it goes down over the horizon. Did you see that? That was odd to me. That doesn't, I mean, since when does the moon do that? The sun's already down. I don't know. And that was facing southwest for the first one. Yeah. So, no, the first one I showed you was the map for this one. And the last one I just scrolled through all those images of was the first map I showed you with the 4 directional arrows, but it was still southwest. So, if that helps with anybody's reference.
Okay.
And yeah, I got, I believe, a couple more images somewhere. I'm trying to think. Side view? Nope. I think that might be it. Can't remember. Yeah. So, if there's anything else you wanted to talk about or go over, or it's up to you.
Do you have any more information you'd like to share with us?
Oh yeah, I wanted people to actually, that was in my notes. I want people to go to this site. If they get the free time, click on any of these cameras at any time, especially in the morning, because that's when the sun is up there. And anything that's like the higher up here, I guess, the better, because, like I said, we get kind of a full view of the sun, so you can keep track and reference of things. Because there's 4 points. Like this one right here is the good one, Selawik. That has 4 cameras. There's a couple up here. Um, so yeah, avcams.faa.gov, and I wanted to show that the Science Digest page there, so you can get that up there. And I believe there's one more thing. Yeah, the Worldwide Telescope. You could go to this. Anybody can download it, and has all the programs fixed together. It's free. You can use the HTML5 version if you just wanted to use it on the web and show your buddies and not download anything, study, whatever. And yeah, it's pretty much the most complex thing I've ever seen when it comes to collecting, information altogether. Because you can really go through things really fast and just see that it all correlates to like what we were talking about before.
Now, how long have you been working outside, Jason?
About this, I've definitely been working out the past 2 weeks
No,
outside.
I mean, how many years?
For a long time, since I'd say at least 13 years, 12 years since I
Okay.
started.
So the reason I'm asking that is when you worked outside 12 years ago, was the sun, do you remember it being the same pretty much?
I think it was, I remember the sun being more yellow. You used to be able to look at it more. I think your shadows were more defined. You could actually see like crisp lines in your shadows instead of like frizzy, I don't know, not crisp shadows. I don't know how to make this. So like there's two light sources, or one off center from the other. I don't get sunburnt relatively easy, and I've burnt twice this year. I actually had blisters, and I never had blisters before, ever had blisters. And I mean, I'm really dark right now, but yeah, the sun is extremely hot this year. The UVs are off the chart. Plants are dry. The other day, the corner of my house, I have my garden set up so like the sun rises over and hits it about like 11:30, and like it doesn't get full direct contact of light until the about noon on until midsummer and later. But it hit my the same day Steve Olson was talking about that flip, and the guys, they were talking about magnetic flip. You could see it on the equipment that people were sending them, and they have a large network of people that send them information and sources. And the sun hit my garden at 8:55 a.m. instead of like 11:30, like when I'm coming from lunch break and stuff like that. So that was really odd. I mean, to me, it's almost like it was wobbling. Like every 3 days, it'll be in a lower place than it was and rise more easternly than it would on the other days. Like it's rising more towards the west some mornings, and some mornings it's a little bit more east. And if you're not paying attention, you're not paying attention. You know what I mean? But I'm paying attention because I want to know where the shadow casts from my house, so I can plant the garden next year a little bit further out or move it over, and I'm observant. It's crazy, man. It's all coming to a head, and like whether people want to believe it or not, okay, tell me that everything that I just said was all coincidence, and I'll tell you that like that's just crazy. I've been talking for hours to you about this, and every time it's something new, it's something different, and it all correlates to the same information.
Well, I certainly appreciate you coming on and spending so much time with us, Jason. I know you put a lot of time and energy into this, plus you work a full-time job, and you obviously don't get paid any money, so this is definitely your passion. And I've also noticed in the comments section, too, people really appreciate that, because what you're gaining from this is knowledge and awareness. And that's obviously one of the most prized possessions for some, and others could care less. They'd rather watch Kardashians' ass get bigger on the reality TV show and then go watch Naked or Afraid afterwards, popping down a couple Coors Lights and Big Macs. So it's nice to speak with people like yourself, and appreciate you coming on the show with us.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I hope you have a good evening. And folks, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/clandestineTimeLord, and leakproject.com. We've got over 200 full-featured podcasts there, absolutely free. Stay safe, folks, and be the change you want to see. This is Rex Bear. Good night. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and we've got Jason Jeffries with us again. We're going to be looking at new star charts, different prophecies and connections that Jason has put together. Now, he's been on the Leak Project a few times before, and we've had many requests to have him as a regular. So the information he's going to be presenting to the table is pretty awesome, and I really appreciate you spending time with us here, Jason. How the heck are you doing?
I'm doing good as usual. Long day at work today. It's kind of hot, so.
Yeah, you're in construction, huh?
Yeah, I was playing a masonry today. I was playing masonry, so pretending I was a bricklayer and stuff like that. It's fun. I got to do it's basically, I do a little bit of this and that, so
Cool.
it's never the same thing, so I like that.
Are you
But
building a bunker?
yeah, underground. No.
Nice. Nice.
No, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? You
Have you
can't
seen
say
that
that.
movie Cloverfield Lane? 10 Cloverfield Lane just came out on rent. You can rent it now through Amazon and stuff.
No, I'll check it out later then.
Yeah, this guy builds this bunker that's pretty intense, and then the apocalypse happens. Unfortunately, he's under there with his supplies. So, talk
Awesome.
about Noah in the 21st century. But what do you bring to the table for us, Jason? What do we got here?
That's actually interesting because, like a lot of the three major religions say that like Elijah and Noah or Moses, whatever, would be coming back, and it says it in the Revelation and all that. There you go. But this program is Worldwide Telescope. Sorry, I got off. I can't remember what we were talking about, but Worldwide Telescope, and it's got pretty much everything, every program, like every filter, filter upon filter upon filter, like layer upon layer. You can just look at like every survey. You can look at every. You can go through levels and levels and levels and levels of information. And what was convenient about this is it actually has all the stuff we went over previously, but it has an up-to-date one in the infrared spectrum called WISE. So if you go to the WISE infrared, that's what we're looking at now, and you can you can go right below the ecliptic and see, as we were looking, and you can see a big red object. And this thing, it follows the path. It literally goes through the path, and they named it it's the curious thing about this is I got some links for it, but it literally follows through the path, you know what I mean? Say the Earth's going around the sun, so as these things are going around and scanning, there's going to be different points which it scans. So the overlays, like if I went to a different filter and went to the IRS, it would show us, the old angles that, at 1982 or whatever. So we'd go right to the below the ecliptic and look at that kind of information, So you can correlate all these other maps and information that we did through there. So we go back to that. So you could look right now at this thing in WISE spectrum, and you just go to the constellations if you wanted. Be the easiest way. And then you click through, and how to find it, the easiest way I found was to bring up right here and go down, and there it is. It's right below the ecliptic coming up, and it's basically way closer than anything else. They couldn't explain that away. You could literally see, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and how many in between in the frames, like from it moving. It was moving so fast during the scan because it does multiple scans over the sky. And look, that correlates with the data. This is around 2010, and it's getting ready to rise above the ecliptic. So people wouldn't be able to see it as well, but they'd see it better than they were, everything like that. Then what you go through, and what I did was I pulled together some information from it, and it's right here. This, and it's called an index catalog of the object. And you can go right to the coordinate. Basically, there's a key at the top. It's this one. All right. So this says an unknown lost object in the Pisces, and tells you the right ascension and declination where we were just at. And it says no objects exist at that recorded coordinates. All right. And then they named it IC, which is just index code, and there it is. And that equals NGC 7832, and it equals this one. So other people kept on reporting this thing because it was an unknown object, and basically every time they reported it or discovered it, nothing was said about it. It was kind of just swept under the rug. So 3 people actually got kind of credited for finding this thing, and they named it. So there's the 3 people and the different times they found it. You can read it all there, but it says it's pretty bright, pretty small, and they named it a galaxy. Okay, they called it a galaxy. But you can clearly look at that, and anybody that's an expert, you can zoom in actually and see that it's not a galaxy. You can see that it's an infrared. So the funny thing is, like, when you zoom in on that program, say if I went there, I could just type in and probably find something. Like, you could just look, zoom off into space. Let's go. Let me take on the right layer. But the idea is you can zoom, and keep zooming, and then they'll keep bringing up higher resolutions, and you can go through different imagery to see the most clear, ones basically, and you can actually zoom in on specific galaxies, like, and you'll see the spiral of it, you'll see the definition of it, and you can keep on going and going and going and going. You can't find this unless it's an infrared spectrum. So, you know, there's only basically been 2 satellite scans of that. So I went and brought up, because we had a lot of people in the shows saying stuff about this, criticizing it, saying this is a hoax. So I brought up the Science Digest that actually told us, you know, this. You know what I mean? So I figured they'd really like this. Mysterious Planet X, it says something must be out there, and it shows us that's probably a brown dwarf, and they sent Pioneers 10 and 11, and they went, because Neptune and Uranus their orbits were perturbed. They knew they were pulled off. Pluto's too small. They know because of the mass of the moon and how small the moon is, that they can guess that Pluto is not having an effect on these things. Pluto shouldn't even be there at all. It just got kind